So here we're going to still multiply radical expressions. And we're going to square them. So now let's take a look at how we're going to do that. This first guy right here, well, that's the square root of x plus 6 times the square root of x plus 6, because that's what it means to square something. Now let's not make the following mistake. The square root of x plus 6 squared, we do not reduce that to the square root of x squared plus 6 squared. We do not distribute the 2. That's bad. Okay? If you do that, you'll receive no points on any exam. So what do we do instead? Well, we do the correct method, and we FOIL this guy out. So what we've got is the following. We have the square root of x times the square root of x. Let's just write that out fully here. And we'll do our FOILing method. So let's take the outer terms. So we have 6 square roots of x. And let's do the inner terms. And so that'll be another 6 square roots of x. And then our last terms will be 6 times 6, which will give us 36. Now the square root of x times the square root of x depends on your course. So when we write the square root of x squared, so it could be x or the absolute value of x. Now, again, in this case, it has to be just x because we already started out with the square root of x, and we know that x then has to be non-negative. However, if you're just given the square root of x squared, then you really should write the absolute value of x. So you either have to assume that we're using non-negative values for our variable, or see the instructions because they might say that, or it may be given to you in the problem, whereas we initially started out with the square root of x, and so then it's just equal to x, versus if we had the square root of x squared, we weren't told anything about the x value. So again, it's because in our initial problem we have square root of x plus 6 that we don't have to worry about it. But let's also put this condition. Let's just assume that everything underneath the radical is always positive, that we're working in the real number system, and we don't have any other crazy things going on here. Okay, so when you see the square root of a times the square root of a, that's just going to be equal to a, because it's the assumption that a is non-negative. So now that that difficult part is done, and maybe confusing, what we'll do here is we'll just say, well, if we have the square root of a variable squared, it's just equal to that variable. And so now I've got 6 square root of x times 6 square root of x. That gives me 12 square roots of x, and 36 here at the end. And that's all I can do with it. So that'll be our final answer. Okay, for the next one here, we're going to FOIL that guy as well. So let's go ahead and write that out. So using our FOILing method, we have 2 times the square root of a times the square root of a. Then we'll do the outer terms together. And we've got negative 2 times 5 times the square root of a times the square root of b. And then we've got this inner thing multiplied together, and it's negative So it's minus, and then we've got, of course, the 2 and the 5. Square roots of a, square root of b. And then the last two guys multiplied together, it's a negative and a negative, so it's going to be positive. So 5 and 5, and then square root of b, and square root, let's see if we can squeeze that guy in there. It's real tight here at the end, I don't think I can. So this gives us 4 times the square root of a squared, minus 10 times the square root of ab, minus 10 times the square root of ab, so we got 2 of those guys, and then plus 25 times the square root of b squared. And again, the original assumption is that both a and b are non-negative, so we have 4a minus 20 square roots of ab plus 25b. And that's our final answer. Okay, 2 more to work on. So again, we'll FOIL this guy out. And so that we're working underneath the that we're working in the real number system again, we'll assume that a plus 2 is non-negative. And we'll FOIL this guy out here. So we end up with this long piece here. Now it's a negative and a negative here, so this is positive. 3 times 3. And again, as long as we're under the assumption that a plus 2 is non-negative, then this holds right here. Okay, and we end up with, we've got 2 of those guys, so we end up with 6 square roots of a plus 2, and then of course we have 9 at the end. So let's take this 9 and put it together with the 2 up in the front, so we'll get a plus 11 minus 6 times the square root of a plus 2. Now let's just use a different color here because I'm running out of room on the side. So let's multiply this together. So again, we're going to FOIL. So the first two guys multiplied together. Okay, the outer terms multiplied together give me a negative square root of x plus 4, and then of course the inner terms multiplied together give me the same exact thing. So we're going to have 2 of those guys. And then negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. So we'll put those guys together, which gives us x plus 4. Again, the assumption is that we're working with the real numbers and that x plus 4 therefore is non-negative. We've got 2 of those guys and plus 1. So let's put the 4 and the 1 together. So we have x plus 5 minus 2 times the square root of x plus 4.